might be the last time you've seen me alive. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov would not comment when asked if they are targeting Zelensky.
Good morning, everybody.
Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S. from Russia has confirmed they've destroyed a major dam, creating massive flood risk for thousands of people. Many countries are also deciding whether to remove Russia from SWIFT, which would sever many banking institutions.
There's growing controversy in Rainham because somebody said that Amazon wants to put a fulfillment center up at the old dog track. And it's going to put 1,700 more truck trips on the Broadway. I said, you're worried about truck trips on Broadway? Really? The lightly traveled pastoral bucolic broad. It'd be like somebody saying, oh, you can't have trucks on Route 28 on Grove Street. You know, I mean,
It's ridiculous. I drive my oil truck, and it's ridiculous all the truck, no truck stuff. I ignore them. Only thing I don't ignore are the bridgeways. Okay, I make sure I don't go at any part. I ignore them.
some cities, I did a series of races on the Charles River on the Cambridge side at the Marsh Coast, and that's DCR. And of course, right there where Mount Auburn Hospital is the Elliott Bridge. When you come out, it's DCR, and if you go down Cambridge Memorial Drive, parallel to the river, fine. But if you go out of there and take and then take like basically come out and go to the right and then take to the left and then take a right, that takes you straight to Harvard Square. But that street's residential, no trucks. Goddamn, Cambridge has a cop there every day, right there at the corner. And it's all the guy does. Commercial vehicle.
That's why it's
a couple $100 too.
That's a loser. Cambridge, working in Cambridge is a loser. That's why everyone's moving out of there. That's why Somerville, you can't even get your bathroom remodeled. No one wants to, no contractors. I know a lot of contractors, okay? I'm a contractor.
Somerville's tough too.
That's what I'm saying. No one wants to work in Somerville. And they say, how come we can't get any contractors? And why is it so expensive? Well, go talk to your town hall and all the bells and whistles you gotta go through. It's insane. You know, they're all coming out this way.
Just whenever people, I was like, that was like the biggest thing you get calls about is traffic, speeding in particular. And people call up, and you know what they say? They're going 50, 60 miles an hour. Now, there's a couple of those streets you can't go 20 on, and a couple of them have like hard, sharp 90-degree turns in them. That you have 50, 60 miles an hour.
How long are you stuck in for?
9 years.
Well, what years?
96 to 02.
Really?
Succeeded in pissing off enough people to get defeated.
Yeah. How many times you, every 2 years?
3.
So 3, 6, you say 8 years?
9.
9, oh, so 3 consecutive, so you won election 3 times.
Yeah. I was defeated the last time, and a lot of it was my own fault, but politics, basically. But, local government's a funny thing. You'd be surprised how many people do follow it and know what you're doing. And people, it's one of those things, John, like after I'm out, everybody was telling me, he says, Jim, oh, you were right. And we're out jogging one morning, me and the Grumpy Old Men Club, I called it. Don McKinnon, who'd been selecting Rainham for a lot of certain selectmen, he used to live over off of Richmond Street, South Main, and he would walk every day. Today he walked 5 miles. And the guys see him, they stop and give him the business. And, oh, come on, Don, let's get this guy out. This new guy sucks. You want Jimmy back. Come on, blah, blah, blah.
You get 1 minute.
So,
would you ever run again?
So we're jogging down the street, and one of them says, they give him the business, just have a few laughs. So we're jogging down the street, and John Kerrigan, who'd been on the school committee, assistant superintendent of Duxbury, he says, DuPont's been a lot said about you in this town over the years. Nobody ever said you were a liar or a thief. And I said,
you did your job right.
I'm done. Here's your time back. You wanted me out, I'm out. They want me to run again. I said, why don't you run?
What's happening in Middleboro and surrounding towns? It's time for the
3 seconds here.
Weekend Review. with your host, Joey Driscoll. Stay tuned for news, Middleboro news, here on AM 1530 WBBS. Hey, Joey, what's happening?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to Middleboro in Review. It is February 27th, 2022. I am Joey Driscoll. I am joined this week by Don Driscoll, as always, and I am also joined by Jim DuPont. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Gentlemen, somebody come in behind us. Oh, Don, you're over there.
Oh, you're over here. Oh my God.
I think that was directed at you.
No, I think it was directed to you. Because he's always turning my mic off every time I turn around.
I'm just gonna ask you, Don. Do you always get this dressed up for Sunday? You going to church after this?
Well, yeah.
That's quite resplendent. I think he's. I don't know about Joe, but you might want to have a talk with him.
A little tuxedo going on.
Fresh T-shirt, Joe.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so weather for this morning, as we do every Sunday morning. Here in Middleboro, here in Taunton, we'll get to that. In Middleboro, 14 degrees, and it is going to be 41 today. So there will be some melting in Middleboro and Taunton. There will be some melting here. Hopefully it melts quite a bit and get rid of some of the ice that we have been dealing with. But 41 degrees today for the high. 29 tomorrow. But no rain in the forecast, really. No weather, precipitation in the forecast for the next week or so. There might be something coming up for next Sunday, but that's next Sunday, and it could change. That's a week away.
Fancy Garage will open in 2020.
But, yep. It is clear sailing for the next week for weather. In Taunton, 14 degrees, 42 for the high today, and pretty much the exact same weather. Driscoll, Texas, 42 degrees outside, cloudy, 58 rain-wise. It's 58 degrees for the high today, and rain in the forecast. And then all week, nice weather, no rain or precipitation in the forecast. 70s most of the week for Driscoll, Texas. Driscoll, North Dakota, 13 degrees, 33 for the high today. Tomorrow, 38 degrees. And there's some snow coming for Driscoll, North Dakota for the next couple of days afterwards. So that is the weather for today. Done.
Well, if you're in Driscoll, Texas, Driscoll, North Dakota, Middleboro, Massachusetts, Taunton, Massachusetts, you're covered in the weather.
Yes.
On this show anyway, right?
Absolutely.
Joe, can you dial up Los Animas, Colorado on the weather? LAS, second word ANIMAS.
LAS.
LAS.
Yeah.
Second word ANIMAS.
Okay, City in Colorado. Got it. All right.
That's where I'm from.
Oh.
Everybody says Colorado. Is that in America?
11 degrees outside.
That's all?
Yeah. 61 for the high today, though. And nice, pretty much sunny skies all week.
Sunny skies everywhere, huh? Nice. That's good.
All right, so we are going to start off talking a little bit about BP, because the election is coming up. That is coming up on Saturday, Jim.
Yeah, Saturday. An actual vote. Now, this is not a drill. This is not something that you can let somebody else take care of. And Joe, I want to thank you for having me in today, because this is something I'm gathering that in the towns, Rainham, Middleboro in particular, Bridgewater, Dighton, Rehoboth, Berkeley, they're in Bristol, Plymouth, plus Taunton. There seems to be almost no discussion about it in these towns, and what little there is, well, of course, why wouldn't you vote for Bristol, Plymouth? And yet in Taunton, it's a controversial issue. But thank you for having me in, because I get a lot of friends in Middleborough, and I've talked to a few of them, and I was surprised they said the following words: "This is the first I've heard about it."
Wow. I mean, listening to your show on a regular basis, you talk a lot about it, so which is good that you're here this morning. Is we might have a different audience for you to reach out to.
And I thank you for that, because interesting thing about small turnout elections. Now they say, every vote counts. Well, the fact of the matter is, every vote counts, but not much when you think about it. But in a small turnout election, and you've had them in Middleboro for a selectman, some of those other things, with a couple of hundred people out of how many thousand vote. One vote really does matter. One vote out of, if it's a couple of hundred, it matters a lot more than one vote out of 20,000, for example. So, I gather from the people I've talked to in Middleboro that they've had a good experience with Bristol Plymouth. Plenty of people have kids who've gone there and done well, not only while they were there, but then after they graduate, gosh, they got jobs, and one of them said, "Oh, my kid was making more money the first year he graduated from Bristol Plymouth than I ever have in my life."
My nephew graduated from Bristol Plymouth in 2017.
Okay, so he's a recent grad.
Yeah, now he's graduating. He went on to Mass Maritime, and he'd be graduating this year in May or June. He just got off sea terms, and he took the electrical, and he's doing really good.
Well, that's exactly how it's supposed to work. Mass Maritime, the Massachusetts sort of Sea Academy. I don't know what but it's essentially an engineering school if you're going to work in the merchant marine, maritime industries, fishing, shipping. A lot of people go from there to the Coast Guard, for example. But so many people get out of high school and they go to college, and college is so different than high school, because they don't hold your hand. It's nice to see you. You flunk. Oh, sorry. They don't tell you to do, check well. It's I don't want to say you're on your own, but it's just in high school you kind of they help you go to this class, and they help you with your homework, and you get a lot of guidance counselors and assistants. College, there's 10 times as many students. But then kids get out of high school and they get to college, and they're unprepared for the experience. What I'm finding out is exactly the opposite's happening with Bristol Plymouth grads when they get to college. Partially because Bristol Plymouth has got very exacting, very demanding academic standards. The trade part, the voc part, and the shops, and because they got real big, broad, basic curriculum. But they teach English, and they teach history, and they make you write papers and read books. And as such, when you get to college, if you went to BP, and the professor comes out and says, "Well, you got a paper, 2 weeks, 3 to 5 pages, sources, bibliography, footnotes." The BP kids say, "Okay," and they just do it because that is also taught there. And I don't think anybody's going to tell you that anybody in the trades these days doesn't use computers.
Oh, without a doubt. And
Absolutely.
some of the tests he had to deal with were very hard. They were very, very difficult for him. But he got through it. And I think by going to BP,
They got them prepared.
you got him prepared. That's your template. That's your template for life. Now, he's doing great. And he also fixes vehicles, and he has a little shop at my brother's place. And he fixed Joey's car a couple of years ago. We thought the engine went. It was something else. So the kid's a real smart, kid. He's really intelligent. He's a great guy, and he liked going to BP. He really enjoyed going to BP, and he graduated from that. So
I think
success story from my nephew.
if this thing passes, it's going to be because the BP grads, who once upon a time were high school kids, they go out and they become what are known as adults, grown-ups, and go to work, and they start life. And every single one I've ever met has said, "I'm where I'm at today, and I'm doing well because of Bristol Plymouth." And that school's old. It's busting at the seams. We go down the list of things that you need to do, of why it needs these things. But at the end of the day, it says, put it this way. When I first got elected to Bridgewater Rainham in 1978, regional high school, I was the first person to graduate from Bridgewater Rainham to run for the school committee there, because everybody was from someplace else. And Rainham had actually gone to Taunton High before BR, and I would tell people, asking for a vote, I say, "This is what you get." And I tell people the same thing in terms of your vote on this. Take a look at a BP grad. That's what you get. And I'd say, Don, they're doing pretty good.
So as far as the vote, we're going out next Saturday morning, right, Joey?
Yes,
We'll
absolutely.
take a ride out to Oak Point where we vote.
We'll be doing
Okay.
that. Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of people should try to vote, listen to, just read up on it. There's definitely a lot of things on the internet. Jim's talking about it on his show. I'm sure you'll be talking about it this week on his show a little bit.
And BP has got a presentation on their website that's also on the Taunton website. If you know, as you go to the city of Taunton, they've got their own website. Right there on the home page, there's a button for BP project, and you can spend as much time on it as you want. There are literally hundreds of pages of documents that give details and analysis. I mean, would you like to know the brand names of the faucets that will be allowed to be submitted for bid for the boys' rooms and the girls' rooms? I was just stunned at how this wasn't like, well, we need a couple of windows. Well, you know, we might need new, you know, AC. You know, wow, we got a little asbestos. Wow, this was like man space, like detailed, right down to the penny on, and the bids. The stuff that BP's got on there. So where'd you get these numbers from? Mass School Building Authority's got other folk projects ongoing now. I think there's one in the North Shore and one somewhere out Central Mass, Leicester or someplace like that. But it's got these projects that are ongoing. Bristol, the Mass School Building Authority says, okay, give us a projected bid on this, and here's where you can get right now, today, numbers. And I was, and labor costs, you know, what are you going to pay a union electrician, you know, how many will you need, etc. Right there, all that stuff's there. And these project consultants at BP hired PMA, I don't remember the name of the company, the firm, but they're the ones who had to get this stuff together. And basically Mass School Building Authority, which didn't exist before. I think it was created in 2004. Kind of a big scandal at the old School Building Assistance Bureau, because I think they had 5 people for all the school projects in Massachusetts. 5 people. And they had like buckets of mail that never got opened and things like that. So they set up this independent office, but these people, you don't just go in there and say, hey, we'd like put an addition on our high school, or hey, yeah, well, you just built a new high school. No, so, yeah, okay, fine. Show us, give us, what do you think? Like, you know, another, you know, 100 by 100 square feet, a couple more. Yeah. Oh no! This is as-built plans, blueprints, lists of materials, bid specification, and this is all just what you'll propose. When I was on the BR, we put a roof on the high school. As a selectman, we built a new middle school, and I wasn't involved in it directly, but I know this much. When I looked at the details that BP submitted, I said, anybody's got any questions after this, I'm gonna go into the business.
I think that's good because it's eliminating any questions you might have. It's
It's a
everything.
lot of money. People are concerned because
Right.
it's a lot of money. You can't blame them. Yeah.
Right. So that's important because you can't leave anything out.
No.
You can't leave anything up to interpretation. It's just, this is it. This is what the faucet's going to cost. This is what the blackboards are going to cost. Right down to the last the paint or whatever.
That's all there
Landscaping,
too. I mean,
everything.
I was stunned right down to the grade of asphalt, lumber grades, insulation. You know, what specific brand names and R factor rolls of this. I was just, you know,
So,
your electricians.
Are these all locked in prices though? Meaning
No, that's the whole point. But this is what you have to tell them. This is how we're going to do it.
Right.
And once you give them that, and they then say, okay, we'll approve that submission and we'll pay 40% of that. And then if you deviate from that, one of two things happens. Like you say, say something on the bid sheet's $1 projected, comes in at $1.25. MSBA says, well, here's the deal. Because they do regular audits. They're ongoing day-to-day audits of money spent, bills, invoices, labor sheets. It says if you go with the $1.25, you got to do one of two things. You got to show us where you're going to cut 25 cents out of something that's still part of the project. Got to cut something out, or give us back our 40%.
Even with even with the material rising
Yes.
daily.
Yes.
Especially now, everything's just going through the roof now.
They're very clear. They said if prices rise during the length of the project, you have to cut something from the project. They said you can't. Our good friend, and he is my friend, Dr. Joe Crotto, who was superintendent of Taunton for 22 years. He built 4 schools during that time, and Taunton High did did a renovation addition, and some of the bids came in high, but that was before these new rules. And back then, if it came in at $1.25, MSBA would say, well, okay, we'll give you 40 cents, but you got to pay the extra 25, and life goes on. Now they say if something comes in at $1.25, but don't forget, you gave them a list of what you were going to buy. Right, here they are, based on those bid specs, and you know how many you need. So in terms of developing the bid, you know, how do you need 10 or 50 or 5, and you know how bids work. And I mean, this is not some little form like at the registry to get your license renewed. This is a book. But they said if it comes in high, you got to cut something.
It's like anything. You could go out and find gas for a certain amount. You can go right to the highway and pay all the money, or then you can go, you can go in deep into the town and pay less. It's like that everywhere. If you can find savings, if you're good at looking for savings, if you're a good shopper, you bring coupons, you always can find savings.
An example of that.
Even during tough times like now.
Example of that on 44, closer to the Middleboro Rotary. Gas prices are a little lower. They're like $3.30 something, $3.39. And when you get closer to here in the station, they go up to $3.45, $3.50, $3.55.
Well, 24 is sort of a throughway. 495 is technically a dead end because it goes to the Cape and ends. It's really not. It's a highway, but 24 technically goes down to Newport, and eventually that's a throughway. You can go to New York by Route 138 if you want. Almost anywhere, Jim, you know. So it's just.
But you're right about the gas price thing, though. And I grew up in that small town in Colorado, that's Los Animas, and you can see 40 miles in all 4 directions. You can see the next town. I get out here, and I was just stunned. I said, where do these roads go? You couldn't see 50 yards down a road. But the first thing that I learned, and my father was hot on it, says the rest areas over there on Route 24, it was Howard Johnson's at the time, and they had gas stations. And my father, if we were going to go anywhere, he'd drive down Route 44, and he'd say, well, let's get gas before we get on the highway. And, Bill Pexon's mobile station was down there. This was 60s. And sure enough, I think the first time I bought gas, I was driving up Route 24 on my way to work in Brockton. And I stopped at the Howard Johnson, the gas station there, and I was surprised. It was like $1 a gallon more, and I said, "What are you guys doing?" And they said, "Well, we charge a higher price because we don't. The ones off the highway, anybody can go to them, and it's no big deal. Now we've only got the people going by us, and they wanted me to feel sorry for them charging me more money."
It really depends on the state too. We've gone to Florida a few times. I gas out, and I make it to New Jersey. And New Jersey is cheaper than, you don't want to get gas in Connecticut. No way.
State gas taxes, California's got the most expensive gas in the country, always has. But then you look into why. It's because they have a state gas tax that makes Massachusetts look like we're not charging one.
Right, oh yeah, without a doubt. So, Massachusetts, as everyone says it's Massachusetts, but it's really not that bad compared to some other states.
So the property taxes tend to be higher, but you're right. I mean, overall, the level of tax, individual tax burden, the worst state's New Hampshire.
Rhode Island's more sales tax than us too. I think they're 7%.
Rhode Island see, New Hampshire doesn't have sales tax, doesn't have an income tax, and if you go into a government office and get a form or something, they charge you for it. And same thing, you go into town hall because, you want to put a deck on the back of your house. They charge you for the application, they charge you to process it, they charge you to inspect it. It isn't like, "Oh, I'm putting a deck on my house, okay, fine. Yeah, it looks good." Oh, no, and it says, they charge, all of a sudden, you look at how much out of pocket you're paying in New Hampshire, and it's higher than we're paying in here with an income tax and a sales tax.
Well, it's nickel and dime, nickel and dime,
Yeah,
nickel and dime, nickel and dime. Yeah.
They think you're not gonna notice.
Yeah. Tax free in New Hampshire, not really.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, we're just gonna finish up on the BP talk, wrap it up in a nice little bow, talk about where you can vote, and also there's a little event coming up tomorrow night. We're gonna talk a little bit about that as well when we come back here on Middleboro Review. It is February 27th, 2022. You're listening to, again, Middleboro Review on WVBF 1530 AM and 99.7 FM. We'll be right back.
Now, a town gives a Dunkin' Donuts a license to open in a drive-thru.
Okay.
So they say they look at the traffic pattern, saying, okay, well, the approach is such and such feet, so we figure it has to be this long so traffic isn't backing up to the highway. How many people are you gonna have? Well, they could interviewing the guy. Oh, well, we're gonna have 8 people here during the peak times, all the time. We're gonna have 8 people working so the line will move. But we don't have that now. We have 4 people. Now the lines are going out to the road. Okay, so are they in? I wanted to ask you before I just opened my mouth on the air about this because I don't like throwing any business under the bus. Are they out of breach of like a contract now?
Yes or no, no. But, and I'll tell you, because Middleboro's there's a rain here. That business will get a business from the building inspector. Okay? And he'd say, when you got your license, you said this. He says, we may have to have a hearing on this. And then he'd call the selectmen and he'd say, put it on the agenda. Just put it on the agenda. Ask them to come down. Nothing formal, we're not pulling license. I'd like to see you. Come on down here and let's have a talk on the record, on cable so everybody can see it.
Right.
And, and then they come in or they don't come in. Somewhere in there, the building inspector politely reminds them, your license is renewed annually. And they don't have to give it back to you.
Right.
So that's your enforcement. You can't take it away from them, Don.
Right.
But you can, there's what they call a job on them, and put a little pressure on them.
Well,
And then if they don't comply, you say, this is a hazard,
the Dunkin' Donuts in Middleboro, over near where AutoZone and Dairy Queen is, you know that
Oh,
is,
it is,
right?
yeah, right
Okay,
there, right there.
that is out to the road every time. Obviously, they don't have enough help running the place.
So the cars aren't going through fast enough.
All right, so
Probably COVID, they can't get the people.
can't get the people, right? So, but I feel, and we've talked about this before, that we bring up Waffle House. They should be we should advertise them because we talk about them so much. When they had the tornadoes in Joplin, Missouri, remember that? The CEO and all the brass went and manned stations. They call them stock teams, they call them. They empty corporate, okay? And there's no lie, they empty corporate. There's a secretary and a security guard left in corporate. And they go run these
Oh, the
places.
top guys went right up.
They went right up.
Yeah.
I don't think Dunkin' Donuts and any of the places don't do that. They
Well,
don't
the
care. They
problem
let,
is the Dunkin' Donuts, they're franchises. So it's not Dunkin' Donuts Corporation running it.
but I think with their name, they should kind of walk in on that.
I got a friend who works at Dunkin' Donuts Legal. And
We're coming back from a commercial here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're back here on Middleboro in Review. It is 7:31 a.m. I want to finish up the BP talk here a little bit. Coming up tomorrow, there is a event. It's going to be the Bristol Plymouth Regional Technical School Building Project Taunton Community Info Session. It's going to be hosted by Tom Bernier, Stella Borges, and the Bristol Plymouth alumni. And that's going to be taking place tomorrow night, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
You can get it on, it's not TCAM, it's, the TCAM does the programming in Taunton, you know, the Guitar Talk, Old Time Taunton, the late Mayor Charlie Crowley, the programs that they do in the studio. There's a separate, I can't think of what it's called, but they've got a whole video control room there in City Hall, you know, right in the room right next to where the council meets. A friend of mine, Greg Glenn, has been running it since came to Taunton, and it'll be on that channel.
It's going to be at City Hall.
Yeah, and it's information. Of course, Estelle Borges served on the city council a number of terms. Longtime political activist in the city. She ran for mayor, did not get elected, and she was off the council for one term. She ran in the next election, topped the ticket. She was quite a good city councilor, whether you liked her politics or not. And but people had faith in her. But she had a motion before the Taunton City Council to some people who'd come to their public input thing at the beginning of the meeting. They let anybody who wants to say something to council talk. Some people came one night and were very negative about Bristol Plymouth. And she says, well, let's have Bristol down. They've had their say. Well, let's get Bristol Plymouth in here, kind of update us on things, you know, kind of, I don't want to say rebut, but just give the other side. And the council voted it down, wouldn't let her do it. And so she said, well, I'll just have my own meeting, but she serves on the Bristol Plymouth School Committee now. And just, you know, as this is Middleboro matters, Joe, that the numbers are quite telling. And on the BP website, and I tell everybody who's wondering about this, you go to it and there's this thing that says, what's this going to cost me? And you put in your town, and then you put in your valuation. How much what's your total assessed value of your house, all right? And it tells you what that's going to add to your tax bill quarterly. Then you can do the math, divide that by, 12, and see how much it is for a week. And Middleboro, the average quarterly impact is $44.45. All right, and that's, in other words, a year. A quarter. So 44 divided by 12, about, I don't know, $5 or $3. My math isn't real good, but you go from saying, well, it's 305 million. And then, well, how much does your town pay? Because it's based on how many students you got at BP. And then, how much is your house valued at? Now, Don, Joe, you might want to call 911. This guy's going to have a heart attack. But the average single-family house in Middleboro currently, average assessment, $341,000. I can remember the most expensive piece of property in Middleboro didn't cost half that. But I've been around for a while. But but some people's are going to be higher, obviously. Some people got like loads of land. Some of those places down Rock Village, and some of those people out there, west end of town, they've got the old farms. They got huge land that they're getting hit on. But then there's the homes in and around downtown, West Main. Some of those ones, quarter acre lots, something like that. They're going to be lower. But I looked at this and I said, so the average impact for a single family house annually is $177 for Middleboro, average. Now, divided by 12, that's like $10, $12 a month, so you're down to $3 a week or something like that. And Rainham's pretty close to that too, even though the values are a little actually higher in Rainham. But I said, I'm retired, fixed income, pension, Social Security, right? I don't have any kids in the schools. And I looked at it and said, this cost me $2.99 a week. I didn't think that was much. So,
it's good you're breaking it down, because people they fixate on the high numbers.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
They fixate on the, oh my God, no, you can fixate on the individual.
What's it cost you?
What's it cost you?
And
Exactly.
Alex Magalese, the superintendent there, his project team, the BP school committee, Stella Borges, Timmy Hollick, I can't think of the fellow's name from Middleboro, represents Middleboro now on the district. But it's, the first thing they point out is 305 million is the total cost, but the district only has to pay 60%, so you only have to borrow 60%. So you only pay interest on 60%. And then you break that down further, and well, Taunton is 41% of the total thing. So you go from 305 million to 179 million that the district has to pay, and then 41% of that, all right, is about 81 million, which divided by 30 years is about 4 million a year, and you get all the way down, you keep breaking it down. So in Taunton, the average homeowner per year, $193 in Taunton. And I mean, oddly enough, the highest impact of them all is Berkeley, but that's probably because Berkeley's got no commercial base. It's all residential and agricultural. So, you know, so, it could be higher there because, you know, they're paying for, it's a small town. It's the smallest town in Bristol Plymouth District. But at the end of the day, even so, $70 a quarter divided by 12, that's like, you know, $5 a month is $6 a month. That's not much.
My nephew Jay is a success story for that. He went there, and the person I really know has gone there, and
okay.
He's gone on to bigger and better things because of that school. So I mean, that's important too.
Yeah, I know a couple of people who went to BP as well.
Well, you got all your math down pretty good.
I was not believe me, I'm one of those people, I can balance a checkbook. That's it.
I see all sorts of numbers.
Well,
I'm going blurry over here.
John, they've got this chart on there.
You got all sorts of.
I know this is radio, but they've got this chart that's a bar graph that shows the repair cost. That's what that costs, and you have to do the repairs. First thing they say is, what do you need to fix? And they make you give them a list.
Right.
And then if you don't pass a renovation or replacement, they make you spend that money next year.
Oh.
One shot. But then they got these options over here, and the different bars say, well, if you have this many students, how much? If you have this many students, how much? All right. And I said, the highest one. Don's eyes are beginning to bulge out.
Well, all these colors and stuff over here.
Good thing it's radio.
And these charts
yellow,
and things
green,
you're showing
blue.
us, are they available online?
Yeah, I got these straight from the Bristol Plymouth website. And the first thing I noticed was, because they say, well, why don't you just gut the place and fix it up and bring it up to date? And it says that was the most expensive.
Yeah.
And when you looked into it, it says, well, if you can only work when the school's closed,
Right.
at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 in the morning, you're going to pay your labor costs right away.
It's true. I have a demolition business. And if someone says, I just want the ceiling done and keep the walls, it's more money. Because now I got to work slow. I have to work around not damaging the walls to take the ceiling down. And they're looking at it, I says,
What's taking so long?
yeah, no, it would be more cheaper to gut the whole place for me to gut it.
Yeah.
They said, why so much? Because I have to protect the walls. The ceiling, I can't just rip the ceiling down. Oops, sorry. I can't just rip the ceiling down because I'll mess the wall. So I'll have to surgically take it down. And that takes time. So that's just,
and that costs time is money.
That's the same deal with that. I mean, trying to work around on that, a shell and it's old mortar and it's got to go.
Well, Joe, you're on the radio, so you could see though that the highest line is to gut the place and just renovate the current building, leave the walls up.
Right.
And that's $14 million more than just building a new one, including the cost of taking the old one down once you get the new one up. Because the plan is to build a new building, okay, and whilst BP is still open, and as soon as that building, you can get into it, they'll move all the students into that. That building will then come down, and they're going to build new ball fields. but those ball fields only replace the ones they currently got. So it's not like they're putting a brand new Fenway Park up at Bristol Plymouth.
That's
It's
what
a high
Middleboro.
school Babe Ruth league.
That's
thing.
what Middleboro High did. They built the new school, and
Yeah,
when they went down, they moved
and
all
the
the
football
students.
field is right there.
Yeah. And,
Once
yeah.
it was ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Whitman Hanson did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Their old school was up near towards Route 27. They built the newer one out back. They ripped the other one down, and they got the field. So it's a win-win, I think.
Bridgewater Rainham, when I was off the committee by then, but the original BR on Mount Prospect Street, opposite the cemetery there, had outlived, just outgrown. So they bought some land over at the other side of Center Street there, Jenny Pulowski's dairy farm. I went to high school with Jenny's daughter. And, and you're right, as soon as that one was up to go, ready to go, they moved all the BR kids into that one. They then gutted the old BR, and that became Bridgewater's new middle school.
Right.
Okay, real quick, I want to mention where you can vote and the date of the election. The date of the election is Saturday, March the 5th. Polling hours 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Middleboro. Please note that all voters will vote at their usual polling place for this upcoming special district election of March 5th, 2022. Those precincts are Precinct 1, which is Oak Point Clubhouse, 202 Oak Point Drive in Middleboro. Precincts 2, 4, and 6, Middleboro High School, 71 East Grove Street. Precinct 3, South Middleboro Fire Station, 566 Wareham Street. And Precinct 5, Council on Aging, 558 Plymouth Street. And those are the places where you can go and vote for this upcoming election.
And if you're interested in what Middleboro High School looks like,
Yeah, that's one of the polling locations. You can go down and
every little carrot stick and carrot's got to try to get people on the vote. Well, whatever.
absolutely.
I drove by that new Middleboro High, and I knew the old one. I was stunned, and I say that in a good way. Middleboro's kind of one of those cheapskate towns like Rainham. They don't go big. They want a deal. Just get it. And I looked at it, and I was stunned at how
It
beautiful.
looks like a stadium.
It is so well. Everything I drove
Oh,
around. I
God.
said, "Yes, they didn't just do some chalk on the board here. Yeah, this looks good. This was
Were you the last year? You weren't the last year of the old school, were you?
No, last year the old school was, I believe, 2020 was the last year.
Oh, yeah, right. It just opened up.
Okay, we are going to take a quick commercial break. When we return,
I want to pick Jim's brain about the tea, because I've been
It's
on a
7:45,
crusade
so
about the tea.
we're going to be
not happy with the
hopefully
tea.
to be close with that, quick
Not
with that.
happy.
But we also have Today in Histories as well that I'm sure Jim will want to give his opinion on as well. So we'll be right back here on Middleboro in Review. We're back. Where you're listening to WVBF 1530 AM 99.7 FM. Pretty short commercial break.
Are we down? Phil?
Yeah, we're all set now.
This is from Dominic Damiano. It says MIAA makes error in original Division I boys hockey rankings. As a result, BR has been stripped of the 32nd seed spot, the last one, in the tournament, and Weymouth goes in instead.
Okay.
Is that my phone ringing?
That is your, that's
Is it Bill?
8145, that's Bill.
I don't know why he calls me while I'm on the air. He knows I'm on the air.
You're working, huh?
Yeah, I am. At least for an hour, anyway. What was the name of the song we listened to this morning, Joey? Hold On?
Yeah.
You ever heard a band called Trapeze?
Yeah.
Hold On? A song called Hold On? I remember hearing it on the radio. He played it for me this morning.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, I know every song ever written.
Yeah.
I took my tax bill, okay, and I took the math, I put it right in there. 30 with my assessed valuation, $35.93 per quarter, which is $11.98 per month, which is $2.99 a week. I got 0.36 acres, assessed at 151,000. Building 122. All right, so my total valuation is 273, and you put your town in. Just put it. There's it, Middleboro. Take the tax bill and tell you how much it costs you a quarter. I'm saying, why is anybody against this? I know, Dayton, goodness, I know, they're in trouble. I want to talk about town in terms of their underlying finances. They're in trouble because they've been kicking the can down the road on a lot of things. And I said to Lenny Hull, the selectman, because he's a friend, he talked on high. I says, Lenny, never let a good disaster go to waste. Never miss a chance to benefit from a crisis.
Yeah.
I said, if this passes, some of those things you want to do, change the executory contracts, change the overtime stuff for police and fire, you'll be able to do it because you'll be able to tell the town, we don't have any choice. If you don't have this passed, you're going to go to town meeting, police are going to fight you on the overtime thing, the homeowners are going to fight you on it. Yeah, that's
Right.
All right, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. And we're back here on Middleboro in review for the 27th of February, 2022. And I'm going to turn it over to Dawn because Dawn wants to talk a little bit about transportation, the MBTA.
Anybody listening last week, they got an earful from me. Oh my God. We got Jim DuPont here, and I want to pick his brain about the commuter rail. We have a project, South Coast Rail, in construction right now, and it's supposed to open up December 2023. So, a year and a half or so, a little more than a year and a half. The alignment of the route is troubling to me because it's so long. It doesn't. I get a funny feeling they're going to fixate the hub of the Boston to the terminal ends, the terminus ends, which would be New Bedford and Fall River, which most people right now are not commuting to the city. So in a way, I don't know, what do you think, Jim? What do you think this whole...
Well, when I was a selectman, the South Coast Rail project had moved sort of off the drawing boards into the action phase, and the original, you gotta understand, once upon a time we had trains, and because the cost of gas and the cost of cars went down so much, the train was no longer a viable option, plus jobs moved out of the city. I'm talking 50s and 60s, all right, and 70 Arab oil crisis kind of made commuting even more difficult, but even the trains were gone by then. So they said, well, let's get it. If you study the history of southeastern Massachusetts, you'll find out that Route 24 is a road that never should have been built. You ever wonder why Route 140 is an expressway until it gets to 24 and then stops and it's just a regular road in the rest of the way? Route 24 and 140 were built as concessions to the political establishments of Fall River and New Bedford, who had lost their jobs. And they said, if you'll give us an expressway to Boston, we'll come back. And so they said, well, let's build this expressway right down, called Route 24 from 128, make an expressway from New Bedford up to 24, and you're all set. And all that happened was all the towns to the north benefited. New Bedford and Fall River as cities didn't benefit. So they kept saying, but we need a train, we need a train, we need a train. And the original route was scheduled to come out of Boston from Attleboro through Norton into Taunton, and then down to where the old mall was, and then divide at Cotley Junction, one branch forward, one in New Bedford. And that got defeated from neighborhood opposition in Norton. So they said, well, let's extend the Stoughton line. Okay, so let's go out of Stoughton into Easton, through Raynham, and come right on Route 44 over here, and same thing. But that one had like 4 times as many road crossings, what they call at-grade crossings, huge public safety issues, infrastructure issues, got delayed. But I said to him, I said, why are you even doing this? They said, well, it'll help jobs and everything, and I said, and reverse commuting and open up tourism. I said, they said the same thing about Route 24, and that didn't work either.
It's too slow, Jim.
It takes too long.
It takes too long. They're not, and in a way, Greenbush line, perfect example. I work in that area. No one rides the Green. Even before the pandemic, no one rode it. I never see the parking lots full. I deliver oil in the area, so I know. I drive by the parking lots. Hingham, Cohasset, Situate, Greenbush, part of Situate. There's no parking lots. There's no cars in the parking lots. There's nothing.
Well,
No one's riding them. No one's riding it.
the commuter rail thing, I said, listen, is there a place for it? But I took the train in and out of Boston when I worked there.
I think it's a great thing.
Well, it is, but it's an elite form of commuting. It doesn't help the average working guy. It
Right.
doesn't help people at the lower edges, because you drive around, if you've driven around a parking lot at a commuter rail stop, look at the cars. These are not, bangers, or these are Lexus, and, these are the top end of the cars, because the people in them, they're driving that train station, are going to Boston for those top tier jobs.
Right.
And they kept talking about you talk about the length of the commute. I did an analysis. I said, well, they say, well, the trip from New Bedford would be about an hour 43, and the trip from Fall River would be about an hour 20. And I said, well, but you got to add half an hour to that. I said, well, you got to get to the train. Unless you live in one of the house built across the street from it, how many people would that be? You got to get to the train, so add 15, 20 minutes to drive to the station, park, pay to park, and now get on the train. If you're lucky, that's 15 minutes. You never know with traffic, finding a place to park, you don't have change, weather, whatever. And then when you get to Boston, all right, so you get off the train, it takes you another 15, 20 minutes to get to where you're going. So you go from an hour, 20 minutes from Fall River to over 2 hours, one way.
It's so slow. I was reading something in 1919, okay? You could get to Newport in an hour from Boston. 1 hour, Newport, okay? We'd never get there. I mean, it would take us 2 hours to get to Newport now.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
So it's the whole high-speed rail situation needs to be upped. And I think the towns, it's in my opinion, safety-wise, some would say, well, no, you're throwing safety out the window, but these towns have too much power. Limited in the speed limits through these towns. These right-of-ways been around since the 1830s. They belong to the right-of-way. I mean, they've been there. They're the first railroads in America, technically, the old colony lines. I don't think the town should dictate the speeds of the trains. You can counter it. Education. Keep people off the tracks. I see the lights go down, I wait. Maybe the guy in front of me don't. But, I don't know, Jeff. It's
first thing you find on these
bubble wrap everything.
You're spot on, because the first thing you find is that when the town says, well, this train's too fast, that the Federal Railroad Administration, surprise, surprise, we got a government agency just for trains. We do.
Right.
And they have criteria. They have rules for how fast a train should go through an intersection, and it's based on all of those factors. Proximity to population, pedestrians, they've got all that, they know all that. And they'll kind of very politely look you right in the eye and say, we'll go as fast as we want. We know what we're doing, we're a federal agency. Don't flatter yourself. And as such, people, though, they call up and complain, and invariably, you hear it, education. There was just a woman who was killed because
up in
Sure.
Wilmington, North Wilmington.
Yeah, and they went down to test the gates to make sure they were working, and forgot to turn the thing back on.
And then again, it didn't work a week later. It didn't.
They went down to test it, and it failed.
You know what they're doing now? Okay, this is a good point, huh? They're stopping the trains. They're getting out. They're flagging the intersection. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's your high-speed rail out the window. And were they gonna do that with everyone now? I don't know. Maybe they should have thought about eliminating some of these crossings when they built, or having some some projects coming up. I know it's a lot of money,
Mhm.
but you can up the speeds and more people will ride.
It is 7:57. I want to move on real quick to the Today in Histories because we only have 3 minutes left in the show.
We need a 2-hour show. Talk to Mark.
You need to have me not talk as much.
No, we love having you talk.
Um,
we just need to talk to them. We gotta get 2 hours in, Joey. Come on.
We have one Today in History today, and it's a very important one in the United States. 1951. The 22nd Amendment to the United States Constitution, limiting presidents to 2 terms, is ratified. Don, quick thoughts?
Grover Cleveland? No. Grover Cleveland was the exception, not the rule, because he was elected and then he
Twice.
lost and then he was elected again. So
Birthdays today. 1878. There we go. 1878. Alvin T. Fuller, American businessman and politician. He was the 50th governor of Massachusetts. 1917. John Conley, American lieutenant and politician, 61st United States Secretary of the Treasury. He survived a assassination attempt. 1954, Neil Schon, American rock guitarist and singer-songwriter of the band Journey, and also, before Journey, he worked with Carlos Santana a little bit.
I think a lot of people work.
Actually, he worked with them a lot of it.
That's
A lot of it. He
Yeah.
didn't work with them just a little bit, a lot of it, actually. In 1962, Adam Baldwin, American actor. He's part of the Baldwin family. Deaths on this day. 1985, Henry Cabot Lodge Jr., American politician and diplomat, 3rd United States ambassador to the United Nations. 2003, Fred Rogers passed away, American minister and television host. Jim, do you have some thoughts?
we all love Fred Rogers.
Who didn't know Mr. Rogers? Come on,
And
I
it's cool.
mean,
I loved his trolley.
he was all about let's calm down here, and it was about kids, and his whole message was let's just be nice to each other, okay? I just that seems to be so missing.
It's funny too. You mentioned that because just last week I was watching something on YouTube when he went in front of Congress to rally money for PBS, and some of the congressmen were a little gruff to him. Yeah, I don't know, whatever. But that might have been their personality. But Fred was just cool as a cucumber. He was just he was just so nice. Even though one of the congressmen was like a little gruff, a little.
How
rude.
could you not be? How could you be gruff with Mr. Rogers?
You gotta go back and check it out. Go on YouTube, type in, Mr. Rogers.
Our last one, 7 years ago today, we lost the great Leonard Nimoy, American actor.
Boston guy.
Yeah, I've seen him. He did Out of This World. Remember we saw that, Joey?
Yeah, that was, I believe, 2020, either
16,
early.
2016.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, right before he passed away.
No, it was 2015.
15.
It had to have been earlier than 2015.
Okay, right.
Because he passed away in 2015.
All right, well, okay. We can't make him come back for that. But yeah, no, we seen him. Me, you, and Kevin. Remember?
Yeah, so it must have been early in either 2015 or late 2014.
Yeah, that's the
that we
first
saw
time
him.
I ever got to see him, and it was great. And I think that was one of his last public appearances before
must
he
have
passed
been,
away.
yeah. Okay, that will do it for today's program. I hope everyone enjoyed. I want to thank Jim DuPont for coming
Thank you,
in
Jim,
today.
for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Thank you so much, Jim. And we'll be back next week. I believe next week, I think is either the 5th,
It's the 6th.
March 5th, or is it March 6th?
Remember, the
March
5th is voting day, Saturday.
Yes,
Remember?
yes.
Vote.
March 5th is voting day.
Vote early and often.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and March 6th is Sunday. Hopefully we will have the election results here on Middleboro in review. Hopefully they'll come out. I think they will. I'm sure they will. So we'll definitely have election results, hopefully, for next Sunday's show.
Next Sunday's show.
March 6th, 2022. We're in March. The finish line for winter is almost here, folks. All right, so we'll be back next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Jim, for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having me, boys.
That was great. Come on your day off. Wake up early, and you don't get.
Those guys on that commuter rail, I said, you understand, this was one of those, I said, don't bother us. We know what we're doing. Screw, it said, we're going to do this. No facts, no logic. I said to them, they came to Rainham one night, we had this big town meeting, had like 400 people. And I said, you guys have thrown out the window 40 plus years of planning, of careful management of this town, of things like building and zoning. You've thrown that all out.
Bye, everybody.
Because you do Middleboro says